Well, good morning and welcome to Last Call here on FAWKES News, Fox News. That's right. This is the last week that news content will be on Failure to Stop. Failure to Stop podcast content will only be first responder related content. And this is all getting back to its original roots 3 years ago, whenever it started. And that is because the book, Pig Latin, is coming out. It's on Barnes & Nobles for pre-sale right now. And there's just a lot of things in the first responder world. We're now bigger network, Fox Media Network. We have included Two Cops, One Donut, Donut Shop podcast. We've got Anti-Hero podcast. We got Unbecoming podcast coming on board. We've got Beyond the Barrel coming on board. We've got a whole network of folks. You guys saw our event down in Orlando and how our live events work, as we are a joint network of influencers and podcasters in the first responder arena. And so that is all falling under the new Fox Media Network. So all these, we will all be going on the road a lot more together. We're going to be doing a lot more events together. So stay tuned for all that. It's all good stuff. And then Fox News is where all the new stuff is going to go. And Failure to Stop podcast, which is my original baby, my OG baby with Mike the Cop, where I got my start. And all of this is going to go back to what it was supposed to be originally, which was first responder style content. So still the breakdowns on Fridays, and then any other first responder related interviews and things like that will always stay on Failure to Stop. So what I need you guys to do is head over to Failure to Stop on podcasts, Spotify or iTunes, because that's where 99% of our followership comes from, is audio listeners. And go ahead and follow Fox, FAWKES News. And that way, all your society and culture news on Mondays will go on that channel. All of the political news, like this show, goes on that channel. And then sports news also goes on that channel. So please go over there. And then if you're on YouTube, this is the last week that this will be live on the Fair YouTube. For now on, it will go over to Fox News, FAWKES News. Today's show is brought to you by ghostbed.com/Wolfpack and also factormeals.com/Wolfpack50. Let's get into today's show where we are talking about the last show before the Civil War number D starts. Or we'll talk about, is it going to start, or what that looks like. Also, we've got some big polling numbers that we've got to go over, and some ballot box fires, and some other election interference that I want to get into today. All this and more on today's Last Call Fox News.
The growing calls across the nation to defund the police.
To end policing as we know it.
Off the charts violence in New York City. 11 people shot in just 8 hours on Sunday.
This is about the police officers who every single day put on that uniform and they run towards danger when we run away from it.
Guns up, giddy up. Welcome to Last Call. There's a bunch of people in the chats today. Hey, Fox is live, somebody says. Bosco watches. I'm on time this week. Somebody else says, Armory Knight says, Civil War. Nothing civil about it. I agree. My favorite, though, is from St. Augustine. St. Auguste Dog. It's not St. Augustine because there's no E on there. So that's St. Augustine. But he was real early into the chats this morning. Oh, looks like he posted something at 2 a.m. this morning. Boy, he was real early. But he says, you see those cops shut down the polls and intimidate Trump voters in PA? That is the issue with LEO. Just follow orders for the paycheck. What oath? I think that's something good to talk about. I would say that, is he trying to intimidate Trump voters? I mean, how do we know that every voter in the line was for Trump? That's odd. But also, it's actually not all LEOs. And the people that are selected to do those jobs are either A, privately contracted by the polls, as in they are working off duty, probably making $35 to $45 an hour outside of their agency, and they are being paid, and then they have to follow a set of rules, or they don't get their paycheck. Now, me personally, as a law enforcement officer, there's no way I would get anywhere near that. Let me just say that right now. There is not enough money you could pay me to go get involved in any election or any political bullshit as a cop. That is like, the job's already hard enough. What do you care? What is in it for you? $45 an hour? that stuff gets okay. So here's how I like to think of it. Let me slow it down a little bit. As a police officer working off-duty gigs, I would work lots of concerts. David Allen Coe, pretty racist guy, in my opinion, all the way to the far opposite Wu-Tang Clan. I've done both at a very small-ish venue. I made $45 an hour, I think, 40-something dollars an hour. I always said in my brain that, one, I'm not really insured to be working there. That's why the price is so much, because you're not technically working as a cop. You're as a private security guard with a badge. So you have to weigh what's worth it to me. Is this worth it to me? And is this something that I want to get into if I'm about to pick a fight with somebody or kick somebody out? Or is there a way that I can get myself out of this without having to put myself at risk? Because at the end of the day, is it worth it? Is it worth me getting my teeth knocked in at a David Allen Coe concert where I'm probably not going to get workman's comp and I'm probably not going to get a whole bunch of benefits because the city wants nothing more than to bend you over and give it to you? Now, I know there's some lieutenant out there listening that's like, oh, no, they're going to hook you up. No, they're not. They're not. I know they're not. I broke my leg in the line of duty fighting a wanted murder suspect, broke my leg, got 12 screws, 2 pins, a plate, and a rod, and I had to forfeit like 2 weeks of vacation before they would allow the workman's comp to go in. And then workman's comp kicked in, and I was only given like 60% of my salary during workman's comp. And even when I came off of workman's comp, they didn't allow me to work off duty until I spent my time in what was called the crime reporting center until the department, not the doctors, felt that I was good to go back. So I got railroaded right up in the beehole for doing my job and arresting a murder suspect. And in the process, I broke my leg severely, which would be a life-altering injury, something that I would struggle to play rugby with. You know, I feel it in jiu-jitsu still to this day. And so the department still kind of finds a way, not the department, but I will say that the insurances and all the other things, they find a way to just really hammer fist you. So I say all that to say, if I was working off duty at a voting poll, I would literally just be a guy in uniform that makes sure that you don't get stabbed or shot or there's an active shooter. That's it. Like all the other BS, I would not handle. And you would just either fire me and not let me do it again or whatever. But I am not putting out a sign that says you can't vote anymore. Not doing it. You want to put out a sign that says you cannot vote anymore for whatever reason that you decided. That's on you. I'm not that authority, baby. And listen, if you're a cop out there and you're listening, and maybe you're that same lieutenant and you're like, well, don't listen to this guy. He's going to get you in trouble. Am I going to get you in trouble? Who's viral and who doesn't look good? The cop that put the sign out and told people they couldn't vote and got into little arguments. Now, listen, I don't think the cop did anything wrong. Fundamentally, I don't think he did anything wrong. I don't think he's going to lose sleep over what he did. However, was it worth it? Was it worth what you did? Probably not. Probably pretty embarrassing. I wouldn't want my kid to see that on the news. My 12-year-old son, who's already just really kind of into all this stuff. And then he would say, Dad, what's going on here? Like, so they were in line and they were supposed to be allowed to be in line until 5 p.m., but it was like 4:30 p.m. and you were putting a sign out and people were mad at you. Yeah. Well, why did you put the sign out, Dad? Oh, because the voter people told me I had to. Oh, so, but the rule is 4:30. Yeah, but the rule is whatever they say the rule is. It's their establishment. They're paying me. I'm just a paid hand of this. You know what I mean? Doesn't that sound like, wouldn't that be icky to have to explain that to your child? Like, I would just say, I'm not doing that. I mean, hey, listen, if you're working at Lowe's, how often do you, and if you're a Lowe's employee and a lot of veterans, they employ a lot of veterans, love that about them. But let me be clear, in North Carolina, and I will say in North Carolina, because I've been to like most of the Lowe's, not most of, but I've been to a lot of Lowe's within North Carolina, worst customer service of any home improvement store of all time. How often can you go to Lowe's and you go to one of their Lowe's associates and you say like, what aisle is such and such on? And they're like, we don't even have that. And you're like, yeah, I'm looking at it on my phone. Like, what do you mean you don't have screws It's an improvement store. Of course you have screws. Oh yeah. Try 13, 14, or 15. You know what I mean? Like, how many times have you been to Walmart or any of these other big chain stores and people just kind of like blow you off? I'd be that guy as a cop in this situation. I'm not putting out that sign. I'm not doing it. What? No. You pay me $45 an hour to make sure that nobody here gets hurt or injured, and that's frankly it. Like, you get the overly super drunk dude that like everybody here reasonably agrees is obnoxious. I got you. But like dictating your line and dictating what time people can vote, nope. No. And then when you come up to me in the room, they're like, they're stopping us from voting. What are you going to do, officer? And I'm going to be like, hey, look at me. I'm the captain now. I'm just here to make sure nobody dies. I'm not enforcing it. You want to stand in line until you're blue in the face? Stand in line, baby. Stand in line. Trespassing you? I want them trespass? No, I'm not doing that. Nope. You can go get whoever outranks you at this little local church, whatever. Call the other police. I don't know. I'm just not going to do it. And then like my lieutenant wants to do it. Sure. Captain, you want to come do it? Sure. Freaking low rank, low on the totem pole, master officer, senior officer, whatever rank structure you have, less than corporal. No, you don't pay me enough. You're not going to back me up when this shit hits the fan. I'm not doing it. Let's talk about what actually happened. So in Pennsylvania, as I perceive this, they don't have early voting, but they do have this on-site mail-in ballot application where you can show up. It's a long, tedious process, and you can get a kind of on-demand mail-in absentee ballot, meaning that this is kind of set up for the people who, going to be out of state day of voting. They're not going to be able to go and vote. And so you can go, as I understand it, maybe I'm wrong, and I'm not from Pennsylvania, and I wasn't going to talk about this until I saw this comments here. So I'm addressing this as I perceive it. Feel free to do your own research. I think I've done a good job. Maybe I haven't. But as I see it, this is the kind of way I understand it. Let me be very clear. That's what Fox News is. It's transparent news. I'm not going to blow smoke up your rear ends. I'm not going to act like I'm a subject matter expert on everything. It's news. And the fact that a lot of news people, and I'm going to show you some clips later, think that they are subject matter experts in all of this stuff. They're not. They learned about it 45 seconds before the show, and then they regurgitated it as if they know everything about it. That's the trick in news and media. Okay? I'm giving you that secret. I'm not a subject matter expert, but I did do some due diligence research in the last 45 minutes. And this is the way I understand it. You have to show up the day of voting in Pennsylvania. I don't necessarily disagree with that, by the way, either. But there are people that cannot do it. I actually have an event on that Tuesday. I was able to early vote in the state of North Carolina because for the last 2 weeks, we could go in and early vote. In-person early voting. Now, the way the PA works is that you can go in, stand in line, and get a mail-in ballot, but it's an on-demand mail-in ballot, which means you go in, you fill all this registration, you fill out this application, they give you the mail-in ballot. Now, you can fill it out right there and turn it back in. That's what on-demand means. Or you can take it home, fill it out, and then mail it in. And it's supposed to be for the people who are not going to be making it to the elections. Now, with what's going on in the political climate today, a lot of people are afraid that, one, they're not going to get the chance to vote. World War III is a real thing. I know that mainstream media and propaganda media isn't talking about it enough, but Kim Jong-un with 10,000 men now, remember last week it was 3,000 when we did last call, when we did the political news update, that they sent 3,000 men over in trade for nuclear technology and secrets from Russia. Not good, right? Because I really feel that if Kim Jong-un has the capability to fire a nuclear missile, he will take that opportunity to fire it. He's that unstable. I do believe that from the mainstream propaganda media. Now it's 10,000 troops and Kim Jong-un heading over, and some other generals heading over to Russia. That's not good. Even Joe Biden himself said, oh, that's not good. So my point here is that people are afraid of not being able to vote the day of election. Think about Western North Carolina. There are a lot of people that are going to have a hard time voting. There's no electricity. There's no power. A lot of the roads are taken out. they're not going to be have that. Now, imagine if that hurricane were to hit this week and you didn't early vote. Voting on Tuesday is absolutely going to be out of the question. You're not going to have your vote received or casted, whatever. It's not going to happen. We don't know what tomorrow brings. And so that has been the rhetoric that you have seen mainly from the right saying, if you can vote now, go vote, because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Maybe there's a car accident. Maybe you get sick. I don't know. And so record numbers of Republicans, see, early voting was a very Democrat thing. Democrats love to early vote in post-elections. They've always led the pre-vote vote, if you will. Now, the Republicans in record number are getting on this early voting. A lot of people in Pennsylvania think or thought that if you get in line, you were participating in early voting, and that is not the case. And Pennsylvania, to be fair, isn't set up for early voting because it's not part of their tradition. It's not part of the way that they do things in voting. Again, I don't necessarily disagree with it. I think, personally, if you want to go on United States of Eric Tansey and join the Reasonless Party, I think that voting is a 2-day ordeal. It's a Monday, Tuesday. Maybe it's a day and a half, right? You have all day Monday and then you have till noon on Tuesday to vote. And then, but those are national holidays. Like that Monday is a national holiday. They give everybody the day off. That's just the country of Eric Tansey. So a lot of these people are standing in line thinking that they're going to early vote, and that's not true. That isn't true. And then now each one of these people, as I have come to learn, it takes 6 to 10 minutes to register them for this early mail-in demand voting. And the lines were getting so long. And if the line is, if the voting shuts down at 5 and it takes 10 minutes per person and you do that math and it's 4:30, you're now there till 10 p.m., 11 p.m. Who's paying who? Like, one, these are, I think, volunteers. I don't think that people are getting paid to work the polls, or what do they get paid? Like $100 a day, whatever it is to work the polls. But I think a lot of them are volunteers. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong there. I know that they're not getting paid like an hourly wage. So what are the logistics there? How do you get a lunch break? Who's taking whose side? So I understand the complications of that, but there's no way as a police officer I'm getting involved. That is not my problem. Oh, that is not my problem. There are a lot of things I will risk my life for, that I will risk getting my teeth pushed in, because you don't know who in the line that you're fucking with. That could be Platinum Mike Perry in the line that you're telling him he can't vote. I don't know. But I am not going to risk getting my teeth punched in because you didn't figure out the logistics behind the way you're doing things in your voting polls. Does that make sense to you? So if you're asking my personal opinion, if you're a cop, if you want to know what Eric Tansey would do in your situation, the answer is make sure nobody gets shot, stabbed, or beaten to death. Other than that, damned if you do, damned if you don't. I would rather be in trouble, slap on the wrist in trouble, and not lose a single dollar than to get my teeth knocked in, get 60% of your pay, have to burn vacation before you're allowed to burn your workman's comp, plus your viral, plus your news, and plus 50% of the people aren't going to like what you did. And so now you're kind of a villain. And 50%, hey, listen, I take the slap on the wrist. Take the slap on the wrist. Don't go all in. Let me read this for you. This is coming from, this is a Pennsylvania local news source called LevittTownNow.com. The chairman of Republican National Committee said at a rally for former President Donald Trump in Allentown, PA on Tuesday that the Trump campaign intends to file a lawsuit against Bucks County for turning away voters who had lined up to apply for mail ballots on demand. So this isn't for early voting. So we have to be careful about the misinformation, disinformation, because that's what the left loves to make everything, even though they are the proprietors. They are the sole proprietors of misinformation, disinformation. But folks, here was what's happening. Democrat election officials are seeing our numbers. They're seeing our turnout. They are seeing us breaking early vote records across Pennsylvania. They are terrified and they want to stop our momentum, says the chairperson, Michael Whitley. RNC chairperson. He says, we are not going to let them suppress our votes. We are going to fight. Calm down. Calm down there, MLK. Okay? Like, nobody's suppressing your votes. This is mail on demand ballots, and I think you should be more forthcoming on that and be, if you really don't want to be a part of the problem, then what we need to do is communicate effectively. And this is where mainstream propaganda, RNC, DNC, and media just cannot figure it out. And this is why this is why FAWKES exists, is because I want to articulate to you without the emotions, without the passions. Nobody is being stopped from casting their vote. This is the way. You don't like Pennsylvania rule? Fine. Vote against it. Bring up legislation. Ask for write new legislation. Go through the process and fix it. But let's not get everybody riled up to look like fools and idiots to the rest of the world. Willie told voters to stay in line at about 7:30 p.m., 2.5 hours after the state deadline to accept mail ballot applications. Yeah, I guess. Or you could just put out, hey, listen, guys, this is, let me just be really clear. If you cannot make it, if you are so afraid that tomorrow will not come, then stay. Not going to stop you. But guys, listen, here's the problem. This is what we're experiencing right now. And then tell them, we weren't set up for this. This is a 10-minute application. You're going to be here all day. We're going to be here tomorrow morning, first thing. And we're going to keep going, and we're going to make sure that you're. So if you're deathly afraid, if you can't sleep at night until you get this, stay in line. If you're reasonable enough to believe that tomorrow will be here and the sun will shine and you'll be able to cast your vote, if you would, it would make life a lot easier for those who cannot be here tomorrow, or people who cannot be here in a week from now, to just come back tomorrow. If we articulated this, then maybe it cuts the line down just a little bit. But doing this whole rhetoric or whatever, now you're just getting people to stand in line literally for no reason. Like, let me just be very clear with you. It's for no freaking reason. This is a mail-on-demand ballot. And let me keep going. Misleading videos, conspiracy theories, confusion on both sides of the aisle about the difference between on-demand mail-in ballots and early voting, and unclear direction from the state election officials created chaos in the last Pennsylvania. Voters had to apply for mail ballots. Though officials said anyone who was in line to apply for their ballot by 5 p.m. on Tuesday was able to submit their application. On Tuesday, voters lined up at local election offices across Pennsylvania to apply to get mail ballots on demand before the 5 p.m. deadline. Many voters didn't realize that they were in line to apply for a mail ballot. They thought that they were in line to vote like they would on election day. The process of getting a mail ballot on demand has each voter submit a mail ballot application and receive a ballot on the same day. It can take 10 minutes or more per voter. The voter can then fill the ballot out and turn it in on the spot, or they can do the ballot at home. I've already explained that to you. The result was long lines, and in places like Doylestown and Bucks County security guards. See how they say security guards? They don't say police, but we saw them. Their uniforms said police, and that's what leads me to believe that these were getting paid off duty. Hey, make that money. You thought you were going to get that easy money. You thought you were going to get that $45 to just stand there and make sure you didn't realize that, one, you're not only going to be standing there until 5, but that cop's probably going to have to stand there until 10 p.m. as well. He's not getting off early. His contract, he doesn't just be like, oh, sorry, you only paid me till 5. No, I have a feeling that's, he probably in his mind is like, damn, am I staying here till 11 p.m.? This is like, like I'm getting paid for 4 hours. I don't know. I don't know how it works in that county, but I know that would be on the top of my head, right? Videos of guards. See, there's that word guards, placing signs to divide these lines or telling voters that they would not be able to cast. I'm here again. If you're a security guard, if you're a cop, don't do it. That is not in your contract. That's not what you're there for. Don't put out the signs. Are you crazy? I was working in an Ironman triathlon one time in downtown Raleigh. And one of the coordinators came over here and said, we want to block this road off. I said, excuse me? He said, we need to put cones up and block this road off. I said, if you would like to put cones out and block that road off, by all means, I will not say yay or nay, but I am not blocking that road off. I don't know what permissions that you guys have to block which roads off and which road you're not. And I've already had like 3 dudes, including a preacher, yell at me for having the road closed and people can't get to his parsonage or whatever, his church. I'm not closing your road. I'm not a shitbag. I'm not lazy. But what I'm telling you is you have to ask yourself, I'm getting paid $45 off duty. Is it worth it for me to get involved in some altercation with people when you as a cop don't even know what the law or the rules really are? You don't know if they're permitted to close that road or not. You don't know. So don't get involved. It's not your responsibility. Be very clear about that. Hey, listen, you want to put the cones out? I'm not going to stop you because maybe you do have a permit, maybe you don't. But I'm not going to be the one putting out the cones out. It's not going to be on. I'm not taking that responsibility. I'm just not going to do it because you, triathlete person that drives a Subaru and has the haircut and the middle end of the nose trinket, you're not going to back me up when this fucking goes south. When somebody gets hit by a car or something happens, you're not going to back me up. Society doesn't give a shit about my $45 an hour. So I'm not going to do it. So anyway, that's what I do. That's my opinion on that. Do I think the security guards were wrong, like fundamentally wrong, and that they should, apologize? No. I don't think so. But I think it's one of those things like, is it worth it? Like, do we really need to go there type situation? Probably not. Also with the early voting, I went and early voted. Okay. I early voted. I believe in the early voting. If you're allowed to do it, go do it. I would have stood in line for 15 hours. I wore a shirt that said globalists are simps. I was not going to leave those polls. If they told me that I wasn't allowed to wear that shirt, I was going to, because that's the problem we're having in my town, is that everybody wears MAGA. Because I'm in a very small rural country town, the kind of town that liberals hate, people that are free, people that love gardening, who hate traffic and concrete jungles, who hate the thought of stoplights and red lights and big giant buildings and houses stacked on top of each other and homeowners associations, people who love to drink raw, unpasteurized milk for all of its great nutrients and its great hydration and vitamins and all the things that come in it, and who love to eat eggs right from the chicken, that they don't have to go and get styrofoam cases from the grocery stall and bleached and like just all the things that come with eggs nowadays that aren't even real eggs, and people who enjoy eating off of the land that's not injected with steroids and antibiotics and all this other stuff that kills your immune system. I am the person that the modern day liberal absolutely hates. I'm more like probably a 60s liberal, like the farmy hippie home birthy. I don't want vaccines. I don't want the government injecting my child with anything. I don't want the government telling my child what to believe and who to pray to and who not to pray to and what sex novel they could and should read. No, I just do it myself. I'll dictate all that. That's where I live. And so a lot of those people are voting for Trump. And so they wear these MAGA hats and MAGA shirts, and they're being turned around at the polls because you're not allowed to have any kind of political thing. So when I had in mind, I was wearing my Red Pill Threads "Globalists are Simps" t-shirt. And what I thought, what I kind of fantasized about happening was that they were going to be like, sorry, sir, there's no political t-shirts allowed at the election tables. And then what I was going to say is, who are the globalists? If this is a political shirt that has to do with our election, which side is the globalist really quick? Because then they would have to admit that one side is going for a globalist agenda. I don't know, maybe it would have worked out. I don't think anybody knew what globalist meant at the voting tables, and so they just kind of like let me pass. They just let me pass through and didn't give me any shit. But also there were so many MAGA people wearing MAGA shirts and all this other stuff. They end up just letting them vote anyway. So it went. Greg LaMontagne just jumped in the chats really quick, and I want to address Greg LaMontagne. 1, thank you for the package. Gonna open it today. 2, also fuck you for the package. Did you spray it in perfume, cologne? How much cologne and what cologne did you spray it with? Because my wife checked the mail, put the bag in her minivan. We went to go skate last night. The entire minivan, just my eyes were watering. I said, "What is in here?" And she goes, "Oh, I think it's one of the mail packages you got." She brings up this package, which one I had 2 packages in the mail. She didn't tell me about. I'll spank her later. And I get the package and I go, "Oh, damn. Like, did you douse that in just like Polo Ralph Lauren or what?" But anyway, my whole van, I already know that you're sending me shirts. So I want to do a video. I haven't opened it yet. But the kids they like to do the video. So as soon as we get time, but thank you. The bar is open with Beth and Greg. Thank you guys so much for the t-shirts. And also fuck you for the t-shirts as well. But all right, let me go back into this with the voting things. Also, I really want to go into this Civil War thing because I is it hyperbolic to talk about Civil War number 2? Maybe not so much anymore. I don't think it's any less improbable than a World War III situation. Either way, it's the end of the world as we know it come this week. And I want to have a real discussion with it. So I'm going to do an ad read, but I want the people in the chats who are here, Greg, Felony Melanie, Cupcakes, Teresa Flaubert, just going up through the ranks here. I want you guys, Nico the Greco, thank you guys for all being here for Bosco Autry. I don't want to forget anybody, Armory Knight, all these things. Listen, I'm not going to scroll up forever. I want you to just, on a scale of 1 to 10, and I want you to be honest, on a scale of 1 to 10 in the comments, do you think, what is the likelihood of World War III or Civil War before Thanksgiving? And let me know what's going on. Let me do this ad read really quick. I was at Jiu-Jitsu yesterday. I'm saying Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu yesterday. And I was rolling with this older guy who's a brand new white belt. He lost 40 pounds just to start Jiu-Jitsu. Very old, very older guy, older than me. I think he's like 60 something. And he was extremely overweight, lost 40 pounds, started Jiu-Jitsu, and he's come so far. This guy went from not being able to do absolutely anything without huffing, puffing, wheezing, and sweating to now he is not even sweating all that much anymore. He's not really huffing and puffing, and he's got some moves. He's getting some moves, and it's very impressive, and I hope he sticks with it. And he was like, Eric, what can I do for my lower back? Like, I can't get my legs off the ground. My lower back hurts. And I said, listen, I don't know how I would do jujitsu without my ghost bed massage topper, mainly because it's that zero gravity massage mode. And it fills up with air. So it's like, it's not very, like, it's not crushing your back. It's not crushing your spine, but it fills up with air and it will almost like it contorts your back, your lower back. And then the other one will kind of deflate, and it really allows your back to just manipulate into a way that it does that pops. And it feels, so I'm like addicted to that. I'm addicted to that. Very weird, I know, but and then I did it to massage my back. It heats and cools my back. But honestly, I don't know if it's sciatica pains or just being a paratrooper pains or playing rugby pains, but really my ghost bed massage topper, which you can get 50% off with our promo code Wolfpack, has been the thing that kind of gets me. It's kind of like my wind down from jujitsu. I train really hard at jujitsu, and then I just kind of relax for a little bit, and I sit on my ghost bed massage topper and fiddle on my phone and do my thing. So I've been a huge fan of it, and hopefully it changes his life. But really, I if you guys haven't already, support those who support this show. We've got a lot more sponsors coming. We're about to hire a publicist. It's been a while since I've had a publicist, but we're there. We're back up in the ranks again to where we start needing to do this. And so we're selling ads for all these podcasts that are on our network. And we're traveling together as a network. And so this publicist, she did a great job. If she takes the job, Vanessa, I'll just shout it out and put a little pressure on her. She did such a good job with Shell Shock. And I mean, and we just have this band now. We have this band of newish first responder, jujitsu, military veteran influencers. I mean, like, we're with King Pix Media. We've got Marine rapper Rocky Luciano. We've got King Pix Media was, Two Cops, One Donut Shop podcast. Like, we're all starting to band together and do these kind of shows. Conservative Anthony. And so we have this publicist now that's working really hard to get more ads across the board. We're bringing all these onto the networks. We're doing more live shows together and quadruple shows. So it's a lot of fun. And that's all falling under the new Fox Media Network. Fox Media Network, baby. Factor me. So anyway, support those who have allowed us to get to this point. Go to ghostbed.com, grab the pillow, grab the mattress, grab the cooling sheets, grab the things. They're also helping us out a lot with Western North Carolina stuff, donating pillows and things like that. So really appreciate it. And then factormeals.com/Wolfpack50. Head over to factormeals.com/Wolfpack0. Oh, I think my wife heard me when I was talking about Greg LaMontagne, because here it is. Oh my God. Why, honey? Why would you bring that into my office? Oh, it stinks. Does it stink? Could you smell it? Oh, it smells like Hollister. It smells like Abercrombie and Fitch. Oh my. Yes, it does. Craig, smell this. Smell this. Do you guys smell that? Oh, it smells like Abercrombie and Fitch. Oh, it's on my fingers now. I guess I should probably open it. Anyway, go to factormeals.com. Meal planning next level. If you want to get jacked, if you want to get diesel like me, hit that protein heavy Factor Meals. If you want to lose weight, hit that calorie conscious factormeals.com. We're talking meal planning to the next level. You don't have time to do jujitsu. You don't have time to do taekwondo or Muay Thai. You don't have time to do aerobics and yoga and court prep and CrossFit and all of the bull that you got going on in your life. The last thing you want to do is go to the grocery store, buy the shrimp, buy the chicken, buy the pork, buy the rice, buy the beans, buy the tomatoes, cut it all up, divvy it out, find the lids to your Pyrex Pytex dishes, get it all mixed together. You don't have time for it anymore. Stop. That's bullshit. That's 2022. Go to factormeals.com, choose from their hundreds of menu items, select what you want, lunch, dinner, breakfast, dinner, breakfast, lunch, breakfast. It doesn't matter. You pick, you choose. You want it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Doesn't matter. You pick your meal plan. They deliver it straight to your door. Fresh, never frozen, chef-prepared meals. They look beautiful. Stop eating bologna sandwiches like a peasant with your mayonnaise and your tomato and all that other shit that like with your white bread that's just going to give you cancer and all that other stuff. Head over to factormeals.com and get you meal plan and get you real food, real nutrients that looks good, tastes good, feels good, and then you will be good at whatever it is that you're doing. Head over to factormeals.com/Wolfpack50. That's factormeals.com/Wolfpack50. Okay, let me go back through these chats. I want to see what you guys said about going into Civil War, and I really want to get into this. Here we go. So let me find out where it starts here in the chats. Oh, Cupcakes and Cameo says Tim Pool doesn't think it is. I'm guessing you're talking about his Tim Cast IRL episode where he had the Civil War mathematical scientist guy on. We'll talk about that, Cupcakes. I listened to that on my flight home from the premiere of Office Joe Show. Shameless plug. Go to officejoeshow.com. Get ready for the streaming event. This has got Tim Kennedy, myself is in it, Jared Taylor's in it, Mandatory Fun Day is in it, It's All Good 24/7 is in it, tons of other influencers are in it, and it's just a really great comedy. I think it's eight to 10 episodes for season number 1, but you guys will love it. I was listening to that Tim Pool episode on the way home, and I thought Tim Pool was very argumentative. He was in a bad mood. I can sense that he's in a bad mood. I know why he's in a bad mood. If you're following up Tim Pool, you know that probably he's in a bad mood just because running a podcast network is difficult, especially when you feel like you're doing all the work and everybody is just kind of riding your coattails and not putting as much love and passion. And they're taking advantage of having to just wake up and be a podcaster and make some money at it. That's what I perceive. That's the sense that I get from him. And I thought he was a little bit too argumentative with that guy. And I did like some of the points that he brought up, but that's not why I did today's show. Civil War. If you've been following me long enough and you've been following Last Call long enough, you know that I've been talking about they will not allow Donald Trump to be the president. And I still feel that. And I believe that in my bones. I pray that I'm hyperbolic and I pray that is a far stretch, but I have evidence. And I think it's more probable than not. And I've been right up until this point. I still don't think Donald Trump makes it into the Oval Office. And I'll tell you why. And I'll go over some of the polls for you and kind of what's going on. And I want to show you these videos really fast too, but let's go to this on a full scale. She's Mur530 is a guy. Mur530 says full scale, 0% chance. 0% chance of both World War III and Civil War. You think there's a 0% chance? Now, that's a bold statement. That is to me, that is unrealistic. A 0% chance of an all full out either World War III or Civil War, 0% chance. That's a bet I would never take. I think the powder keg is full. It's whether somebody will light it or not. And I think once it lights, personally, I think once the keg is lit, then yeah, and it doesn't take much. And I disagree with Tim's argument that it can't happen inner city. Let me bring up a case in point. These mail-in ballots that were caught on fire, these not mail-in ballots, these voting ballot boxes that were set ablaze. There were 3 different ones, Portland, Oregon, Vancouver, and I'm not sure where the other one was, but it was all within the same, I don't know, let's say 50-mile radius, 100-mile radius. Let me just read this for you from USA Today. And this is kind of why I disagree with Tim Pool's argument that a liberal city can't devour itself and start its own civil war, then it's inside a civil war. I see where Tim's point was coming from, but I think he was maybe arguing because it's culture war, and that's kind of what they do on that show on Culture War is argue. And maybe he was, because arguments bring ratings. But my argument to that is voting in both states. This has come from USA Today. Hundreds of ballots damaged in Washington, damage limited in Portland. Voting, excuse me, that was rude. Voting in both states. It's this fucking one more. This is the bar is open with Beth and Greg package over here. It's choking me to death. Voting in both states takes place almost entirely by mail and drop boxes. That's weird. I think that's weird that Washington and Oregon do almost entirely by mail and drop boxes. What is the problem with going to a voting precinct and voting? Having an option to early vote and mail-in voting isn't the worst thing in the world. I empathize that there are people who can't get out. There's elderly. There's people who have business arrangements and things like that. But one, I think voting should be the most important day of the year. More important than Christmas, frankly. This should be, nobody finds an excuse to not do Christmas. That's a believer in Christmas. You know what I mean? Very few. Voting should be the same way. There should be very little excuse that you find that you cannot go vote on voting day. I find it very odd, and I don't think it's very. I don't trust it. I don't trust the drop box ballots. I want in person. You show your ID card. You get your name. I saw in the voting line when I early voted, and I felt this, but I wore some board shorts, some dude shoes with no socks, like slippers basically, and a globalist or Simps t-shirt. And then there was a man, an older man, who had his hair done and he had his church suit on, and he was conducting himself in such a professional manner that I actually felt bad. I was like, you know what, that's almost the way it should be. You should be so fucking excited to vote that you should do your hair and you should dress up slightly or however you feel reverent. People find reverence in certain ways, and I'm not saying everybody needs to dress up, but I was completely irreverent. I was just like, fuck it. The only thing that I thought about was putting on a t-shirt that might piss somebody off so that I could have a little bit of drama, because I'm a podcaster and I love drama within reason. Within reason. I'm not fighting over drama. I'm not throwing fists, throwing hands. I'm not, people cut me off in line. I'm not looking for that kind of drama, but I like to run my mouth a little bit, just a little bit. But I know I'm not going to fight, and I know I'm not going to throw hands, and I know I'm not going to shoot somebody. So I will only run my mouth. I treat it like dueling is still a thing. I only run my mouth so much because I know at the end of the day, I don't want to have a duel, because both people probably are going to get shot, and it's not worth, a lot of shit's just not worth it to me. But I think there should be some kind of reverence into going and voting, and just dropping by a drop box and throwing your shit in there or putting it in the mailbox. There's no reverence to that. There's no significance or symbolism of pride and effort put into that. My opinion, the world's not ran by me. Let me know what you think in the chats. But mostly in Oregon and Washington, according to USA Today, almost entirely voting in both states takes place almost entirely by mail and drop boxes. Washington Governor Jay Inslee called the fires a violent attack on democracy. I don't disagree there, and promised enhanced 24-hour security at ballot drop box locations. Why isn't there already enhanced 24-hour drop box? Again, this is the most important thing in our country, at this moment. That is the most important shit of the fucking 4 years, is this moment of democracy that we should have a lot more pride in than I think we do. Should have 24-hour surveillance security no matter what. Absolutely. Hands down. It's absurd that you don't. I thought that the security at the voting thing was a little light for not being allowed to carry concealed. If I can't carry concealed, I want to see some armed cops not enforcing bullshit election stuff, but there in case of a active shooter. Maybe there were some undercovers there. I don't know, but I don't like being there without my concealed carry. Here's a quote from the governor. "We will do everything to keep our election system strong and secure." In Washington, he said, "Our state and local election teams are fully dedicated to making sure every person's vote is counted fairly and accurately. There will be 24-hour enhanced security." Good. I agree with all that. Clark County Auditor Greg Kimsey said that fire suppression system in the box failed Why do all these suppression systems fail? Why is it that the Epstein shit, the cameras failed? Why is it that, why is it that we always have this like failing lapse of stuff when it comes to big, giant conspiratorial type cases? Why is it that we always have this stuff failed or it didn't work like it's supposed to work? I find that odd every single time. It's just every fucking one of these. It's always something failed. Hundreds of ballots had been destroyed in the Vancouver fire. The last pickup from but here's the thing with the Vancouver fire. Let me show you a map real fast. Portland, 100% blue. I'm going to show you this map. You can find these maps. Like if you're moving to the city. So I think these are kind of agenda free, kind of politically free maps, so I think they're pretty accurate. This is if you want to move to that area and you're trying to get a feel for what that area is. So here is Buckstown, where where one of the fires happened. Actually, the fire suppressant actually worked in this city. So and here's the conspiracy for you. Okay, so in this town in Portland, they lost three ballots were burned up because the fire suppression system actually worked. And so only 3 were damaged, but they weren't so damaged that they couldn't figure out who they belonged to. Very interesting, right? So those votes are still going to get cast, those 3 votes. Everything else, fine, good, dandy. But we go over to Vancouver, which is pink. And the mayoral race in Vancouver actually came down to 3,000 votes. And there's a Democrat ran mayor right now. And that in Vancouver, where it's red, right, where it's pink, versus this very dark blue in Portland, you have 100 ballots and the fire suppression doesn't work. So we go to both, right? If you're a bad seed, you would want to attack both so it doesn't look like left is attacking right. And you could say, oh, no, they attacked both. But one, the voter fire suppression system works. And in the other, they lose hundreds of ballots and there's no talk or word of that they know who these ballots belong to or don't belong to. Pretty interesting, correct? And then we go over to Pennsylvania, which is another battleground, a key battleground state. And I pulled this article for 2 reasons. I'm going to tie this back into a Civil War type scenario here at the end. But I want to play this video for you, and I pulled this video for 2 reasons. One, it shows you how biased the media is. You already know that. That's why you're listening to this show. But it'll show you the biases. And then I like how she didn't pre-screen the person she was interviewing. And when he gives her an answer that she didn't really want, she's completely flustered and flabbergasted. And they try to bring it back to kind of some kind of misinformation. And I found that very funny because as a podcaster, somebody who runs his mouth 5 to 6 days a week on a microphone, and I'll give you some more secrets here in the podcast world with some indicators that she has no idea what the fuck to say next. And I've been there. You could probably go through all of my podcasts and see where I've been there. She's going to go there and it's hilarious. It's very funny because she's like, she's a deer in the headlights, but I want to play this in its totality. I'll need your help in the comments on the live chats here. If just say that you can hear this or not, I cannot turn it up any more than it's already turned up. But if you can hear it, let me know. If not, I'll just have to explain it.
Preparing for every machines, mis and disinformation, possible protests to delayed results, and those are just some of the issues. And then there's keeping an eye on Donald Trump. He's already speaking out about potential voter fraud in Pennsylvania, despite county officials not finishing their investigations yet.
Okay, so she starts off with saying, we already have Donald Trump starting this rhetoric about voter fraud. Here we go. That's her tone, right? Like objectively, that is her tone. And here we go. Let's listen to what he has to say. That's her tone.
There's some bad spots in Pennsylvania where some serious things have been caught or in the process of being caught, but the election itself is going very well.
Oh, wow. Was that super hyperbolic of Trump? Is that him paving the way? What he's saying is that in Pennsylvania, a key battleground state, the fight for Pennsylvania, nobody's hasn't heard this yet. This is not new news to anybody. And he's saying, listen, there's some stuff there's already stuff going down in Pennsylvania. By the way, remember, some states were lost in the last election by 3,000 votes, 15,000 votes, 7,000 votes. Remember how close states like Arizona and all these other places were? Very close, down to the wire. how many votes is important. And where do we draw that line? So she's accusing Trump of already starting this bullshit. That's what she might as well said. Oh, here goes Trump up on that bullshit, on that voter fraud bullshit. Let's bring in our Pennsylvania voter fraud elected official to stop it, and let's see what he has to say about this Trump bullshit.
Well, these claims come after officials in Lancaster County said they identified hundreds of potentially fraudulent voter registration applications. Commissioner Ray D'Agostino, the chairman of the Board of Elections in Pennsylvania, joins me now for more. Ray, so glad to have you. Let's talk, first of all, about what the former president is talking about and what is the Board of Elections doing right now to address these claims of voter fraud in your state.
Now, look at the smile on her face. Please pay attention to this. Please pay attention to this. I'm teaching you how to read podcasters and journalists. Look at the smile, the smug smile. Trump's on that bullshit. Tell us what's really going on with this fraud. And a smile, as if she thinks or knows that this guy that she's interviewing had to be hand selected, had to be cherry picked, and is going to give the world what they want to know, that Trump is in fact up on his bullshit and that this really doesn't mean anything. That's what the assumption is here. Look at the smug smile. Look at how the attitude that she had going into this. Here we go.
Well, thank you for having me on. I do have to say this is an ongoing investigation, so I'm going to be limited to some degree of what I'm going to be able to tell you. But I will say what we have found is two large batches of voter registration forms came over 2 days, a Friday and a Monday, right before the close of voter registration deadline here in Pennsylvania. They were suspicious. Our staff immediately noticed some things that were suspicious. Namely, at first, that there were applications for voter registration that were in the same handwriting and also almost identical signatures. At that point, our staff
So you have 2,500 ballots, 2,500 ballots with the same handwriting and the same exact signatures. But Trump, remember how she said at the beginning, he doesn't even, it's an ongoing investigation. He doesn't even know. Like, yeah, it's pretty fucking clear that if you're running for office and your intel comes back that 2,500 ballots were dropped off with the same exact signature and the same exact handwriting, it's pretty safe to assume in this case, this isn't a murder trial, that these are fraudulent ballots that are being mailed in and they were caught. And how many weren't caught? And if we go back, how many votes is important? Is it 2,500? Is it 3,000? How many did the mayor of Vancouver lose by? 3,000. Go and do your research, plug it in here. Let me see how fast your Google fingers are. What was the Arizona race last year? What did it come down to in the grand scheme of things? Recounts and revotes. You know what I'm saying? So what is the magic number? Is it 3 million? Is it 3,000? What votes matter? What counts? Because if this is just one county and two batches in one county in 2 different days in one county, then how many other counties missed in all the other days and all the other weeks? 2,500 then becomes 5,000, becomes 15,000, becomes 25,000. So it's not a nothing. Let me keep playing. So
contacted myself as chairman of the Board of Elections and also our district attorney to begin an investigation. That investigation is still going on. There are about 2,500 of these applications that are currently being reviewed. Also, we're not the only county. Apparently 3 other counties.
Oh my God, what am I, Tanstradamus? I am, because I've already seen this. Again, 2,500 here, and now he's saying that there are 3 other counties. Let's just say those 3 other counties are half that. What's 1,500 plus 1,500 plus 1,500? And then we had 2,500. You see what I'm saying? Do the math, do the science. Trust the math, trust the science. What I'm saying is, at what point are the votes significant?
Have had a very similar situation. They're also investigating.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I appreciate you just can.
So, all right. So this is my favorite part of the video. This is where she's like, oh shit. I've started this thing out with Trump's up on that bullshit in an investigation about voter fraud in Pennsylvania. That's her attitude, correct? Let me go back. Let me go back. Listen to her attitude.
Machines, and disinformation, possible protests to delayed results, and those are just some of the issues. And then there's keeping an eye on Donald Trump. He's already speaking out about potential voter fraud in Pennsylvania, despite county officials not finishing their investigations yet.
Keeping an eye on Trump. We got to keep our eye on Trump. Thanks, mainstream media. Thanks for keeping your eye on Donald Trump and not keeping your eye on Chameleon Kamala and all of her different accents and all of her different fact checks that have gone south and have gone wrong. The fact that she's laundering money and the fact that she's spending 12 point something million dollars on entertainment that doesn't even entertain. Like, but let's keep an eye on Donald Trump. Thank you, mainstream ABC media hosts. Thank you for keeping an eye on Donald Trump. And honestly, I mean, she might as well just say it. He's up on that bullshit. And then we come back over here.
Everything extra this time, security rating.
Oh my gosh, did I screw this up?
County. Apparently 3 other counties have had a very similar situation. They're also investigating.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I appreciate you just confirming it. Tell us, and also telling us exactly what you're doing. But it's interesting how you guys realized right away that something wasn't right. So I'm curious.
Okay, so I'm gonna play this for you again because I want to let you guys in on podcast secrets. This is fine. She has no idea what the fuck to say right now. She has no fucking podcaster to podcaster, journalist to journalist, host to host, whatever you want to call it. She has no. She thought that this was gonna be some of that Trump bullshit, and it wasn't. And now she has no idea. Her constituents didn't plan for, like, they just assume. They just assume this is how detached mainstream is, that they really believe, they really truly believe that that the rest of the world is on the same. They believe the bullshit that they're spreading. They believe that because they're not doing independent journalism, they're being fed this by big network propaganda. And so they're taking this and they're like, oh wow, they believe this news. And so when they have somebody in check with reality, somebody that's there, boots on the ground, and this is all proof from Western North Carolina style stuff too. When you got boots on the ground telling you it's something different, she has no idea. So wait, let me just play this really quick. I want you to watch her eyes. Watch her. She's like looking at her producers, like, what the fuck, guys? Put something in my earpiece. Give me something to say. Wow, I was wrong. And now that smile, that smug little smile is now like a panic. Just watch.
The way that something wasn't right. So I'm curious just about the protocol, the standing operating procedure, just knowing what we went through last time around. And now there's a lot of concern this time around as well about election security. What are you doing?
I mean, dude, she's all over the place.
Are you doing anything extra this time around just to be absolutely on top?
Yeah, so there you go. So now they're trying to spin this whole thing. She was caught. She was bamboozled. It goes to show that Trump isn't up on his bullshit. Like, there is election interference happening. 25, like somebody in the chat said 7,000 is the total thing right now. If you had 3 counties and we're just going like, dude, we're being conservative on these numbers. We're saying that we're splitting it in half. We're saying that if one county has 2,500 in 2 days that were caught and there's 3 other counties, we're subtracting half. And we're still coming up with this number of 7,000 total votes in Pennsylvania that are fraudulent. And again, at what point is that significant? I would say that 7,000, I would say 2,500 is significant in this race. Now I see Greg says that the poly market is 67, Trump 33. I also think the poly market polls have been swayed as well because there's been some big giant millionaires. And this is why I wouldn't bet on that, is because there's some big giant millionaires that put in like 30. There was like four bets at $30 million a piece that kind of started the poly market poll kind of chain of events, chain of reaction there. And so you know what I mean? I don't know if I trust the poly market poll so much. And I know that they say like, oh yeah, well, voters always, people that are betting money have skin in the game. I agree. I see your point there, but also I can see that like, if you're an idiot like me and you're like, oh shit, the poly market polls are up, now I'm going to jump in. I don't know. I'm not a big better, but they bet on Hillary Clinton. She was up in the poly market polls and she lost. And I also know this, that every time I vote for somebody, they lose. I mean, not vote, but anytime I bet, if I bet on a UFC fight, they lose every time. So I might just bet on Kamala Harris because of my superstition knows that if I bet on her, she will lose. Again, don't take me to the casino. I'm not your guy. I'm not your guy. Okay, so this is a big deal. And I want to tie this back over to the Civil War. Let me play this last clip.
Controls. So I'm curious, as commissioner and only 1 week away from Election Day, what are you the most concerned about right now?
Well, I think most of us are concerned about information and misinformation getting out.
That's what you're most concerned about going into this election. That's what you're most concerned about going into this election is misinformation. And that's the scariest part of going into this election is misinformation, disinformation. Oh, I can't think of anything scarier. Not mass shootings, not poll shootings, not ballot harvesting, not fake ballots, not cheaters, not like the biggest fear you have going into the election is misinformation, disinformation. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Who's putting out the misinformation, disinformation? Is it this bitch from ABC that's saying, oh, Trump's up on that bullshit again, and they haven't even, and then only coming to find out minutes later that it's 7,000 plus votes that were the same signature and the same handwriting. And so so who's putting out the misinformation, disinformation? That's your biggest fear. Anyway, I just thought that was silly and I wanted to throw that in there because I don't think that's the biggest. I don't think that's the biggest fear that we have going into this election. What I think the biggest fear is going into this election, and this is my argument tying it all back to Tim Pool, is he says that, civil war can't happen in its city on itself. Well, let's just use Pennsylvania. I guess it's Pennsylvania purple, to be fair, for this story. Very close race. Very close race. We now have people in a line at a voting poll who feel and believe, not due to misinformation or even disinformation. No, I'll take that back. Probably misinformation, but whose fault is that? Who's not articulating what mail-on-demand ballot is and why does it take somebody like me to have to explain it to people? And I had to come up with that on my own as well from a very small town source. If you remember what that source was, it was just a county news. I didn't get that from like any ABC or New York Post. I got it from levitttownnow.com. That should be national news. If something is misinformation or disinformation, why aren't we putting out the real information? And we're putting it out articulable and making it mainstream. We're not doing that. What we do is we hide and we retard those facts. So then it just remains misinformation because you need misinformation to thwart and to retard this because you can't just do it the right way by itself and let the American people have a vote for themselves. You have to manipulate and figure out. People won't just get the vaccine because they feel like it's the right thing to do. You have to bribe them with McDonald's and all this other bullshit, which is also killing them and yada, 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 yada. Okay. So let me the whole part. We got a bunch of people standing in line who feel and believe in that moment that this is their God-given right to vote. And it is. And it is the rule that they are allowed to do what they are doing. And now you have a law enforcement officer, a hand of the county, hand of the state. And I don't know which law enforcement officer it is. You don't know which one you're going to find, right? What kind of law enforcement officer volunteers to work the polls for $45 an hour? Obviously not the smartest fucking cop in the precinct. Unless he knows something I don't know. I don't know. I don't think that's a gig that most smart, reasonable cop takes. Only desperate cops take that. Or lazy cops that are like, oh, this is going to be elite. This is going to be the easiest $45 of my life. Only the laziest cop or the dumbest cop takes that $45 gig, an hour gig. Most likely. There are outliers, right? Like, we desperately need somebody to do this. And a reasonable guy like me is like, all right, I'll do it. But like I'm not getting involved, right? So they pick the one guy that wants to do it. And that's your guy. And that's the guy that you're putting all your hopes and dreams in that's going to to make really great decisions. The guy that wants to make the $45 an hour to work the polls. And then this guy, not only is he going to make the $45 an hour to work the polls, but he's also going to go above and beyond his Call of Duty to put out a fucking sign at 4:30, even when people start to grumble and argue. Okay? All it takes is one of those people in that line to get into that confrontation with that cop. And either that cop shoots that person. What do you think happens to everybody in that line? They're probably going to kill that cop. Maybe not. Maybe they don't kill the cop, but I guarantee you they go to war. By nightfall, those folks go to war with that local police precinct. And now you have war. Cops versus a whole bunch of right-wingists. Then you add the media fire that you know will already be there. Far right wing. It's because Black Lives Matter was okay to fight cops if you were on the Black Lives Matter because you were on the side of the media. You were part of the media agenda. The media would want nothing more than far right wingers to kill cops because then it would be an act of civil war, an act of treason. When Black Lives Matters, Antifa guys kill cops, well, hold on, let's get the facts here. Maybe that cop was in the wrong, or maybe this Antifa felt that he needed to. He felt threatened. That's the rhetoric that's put out by mainstream media. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I know I'm not because I've been doing this for a long time. But the left, but the mainstream media, propaganda media, if a far right winger, a J6er kills a cop, all of a sudden, we're not even going to look to see what he felt or what he did. This is an act of treason. This is an act of domestic terrorism. And now the left wet dream is that all right wingers, because of this incident, because cop shoots this a person that refuses to get out of the line, and God forbid it be one of those things where he was reaching but he didn't even have a gun. It could be something as simple as that. The same thing that we see the BOBC, the black on black crime, or the Black Lives Matter crime, or these the cops that shoot these guys with the boiling water. It could be something as confusing as that we do a great job of articulating on this show and going through the facts of the case minus the emotions and the media drama behind it. It takes one of those small cases that we've covered 1,000 times on this show. It happens right here in Pennsylvania. The cop makes a bad choice, makes a bad decision. He shoots one of these guys in the line. And now all of a sudden, all these right-wingers come out against the cop, and a left-wing media says, here we go. We have a far right-wing extremist insurrection. That's all it takes. Now you've got Pennsylvania going all in it. How many people traveled state to state during BLM to take the side of BLM and Antifa? They had to be paid, granted, by the George Soros Foundation and all these other Bezos and all these other things, or whatever conspiracy you want to jump on the side of. We know that there were paid actors in some kind of fashion, whether it be extreme or minor. We know that there were paid actors. But there were a lot of other people that weren't paid actors that traveled to these areas and got involved. How many people are going to go to Pennsylvania? How many right-wingers have had enough of the bullshit? How much of the right-winger? All it takes is this one incident, and everybody's going to Pennsylvania. So a 0% chance to me is like, that's not even, there's not, I think there's a 50% chance this happens. Then we talk about adding in the percentages of World War III. Guys, I've said it from the beginning. My whole fear here is that this goes nuclear before. God, sounds weird saying it. Sounds weird saying it, but I feel like a nuclear bomb gets used before this election so that we could say we're at nuclear war. And I think it's a red flag event, honestly. I think it's a nuclear bomb that gets launched, doesn't really take out a whole bunch of people. It doesn't like decimate the ecosystem, but it's a nuclear bomb and it kills a bunch of people. And now we get to say we're at a nuclear standoff. And now talks are at the table and the whole world shuts down and everybody forgets about it. Everything else is going on. The whole world shuts down. It's almost like a little reset. It's a scary reset. Almost like a pandemic scary reset. To where we're at some kind of global nuclear war. That's what has to almost happen. If you believe that globalists are real, if you believe that there's a new world order agenda, then you have to absolutely believe that something like this can happen. Greg LaMontagne says, who launches? I mean, if it's a red flag event, I would say number of ways. Either A, it's an Operation Northwood style red flag event where we do it and we blame it on somebody else. Nord Stream pipeline, anybody? Or We know it's about to happen. We can thwart it from happening. We don't thwart it, 9/11. We allow it to happen, 9/11, so that we can go into a more global conflict. And we being the Dick Cheney, George Bush's, who, by the way, Dick Cheney fully endorsing, Liz Cheney endorsing Kamala proudly accepting that endorsement, and Liz Cheney being all big part of her campaign, which is insane, which is proof that George Bush and Dick Cheney's wet dream, or the industrial military complex's wet dream, which was to scatter the Palestinians like birdseed to start direct conflicts with Syria, Lebanon, Iran, and Russia. All those things happening right now under this administration, because we know this administration isn't in control. Because Joe Biden, we know, is not in control. We know Kamala is not in control. Objectively, we know that Joe Biden is too old, and we know he's not the call. He's not the shot caller, and we know that Kamala can't be the shot caller because she's campaigning right now. So what you have is the industrial military complex that I really believe is in control of things. So who launches? Well, take your pick: North Korea, Russia, Iran. If you think that there's a 0% chance that Iran invaded Israel and Israel didn't know it was coming, you, my friend, are a fool. You can't mass 6 Taliban members in the massive country of Afghanistan and Pakistan combined. If you join those together, you couldn't mass 6 Taliban together without every single soldier in Afghanistan knowing that they were massing together. In the 6s, in the 10s of people. So you're telling me that 200 got together and formulated an airborne assault operation? And there's not, because there's already Israeli defense forces that said that they were like, hey, they are massing at the border right now. They put women, Israeli defense women, at the border on the side that they came through, and they had reported weeks prior that they thought some bullshit was happening. And I think that's where we're at in this day and age of psyops and manipulation and industrial military war complex. I think that, me personally, I feel like that's losing control. So I feel like the threat is imminent, that either A, a civil war can happen, and it happens just like I just mentioned, or B, a World War III sitch, or both. Or both. I think we're sitting in a powder keg. I think whatever happens in the next week, and God, I pray that I pray that when we wake up Thanksgiving Day, that life is goes on as normal. Don't forget, though, we still have this strike that has to take place. They're on that 90-day rest period that comes out in January. That also leads to this powder keg. You think you're hurting in the pocket now? Wait until that strike of 83,000 dock workers kicks back off January 3rd or whatever it is, January 4th, whenever that's scheduled to reconvene. Remember, they only took a sleeper on it. Media makes you think, and has completely forgotten and abandoned this whole dock strike, but they took a 90-day rest period that they said they were going to take. They said they were going to do the strike, and then they were going to show you what it's like for a week, and then they're going to go into this 90-day rest period. They already said that. The people who were organizing it already said that. But mainstream media won't tell you that, and they're not putting that out there. They're making it like the strike is gone. It's not gone. They're taking a 90-day rest period. They showed you what's going to happen. And now they're giving 90 days to come to the table on a very unreasonable amount of terms, like a 70% pay increase across the board for every employee. It's unheard of. It's almost like it's all by design. It's like, you'll meet our demands, which you can't and you won't, or we're going to collapse the economy as you know it. Just in time for January? Just in time for maybe January 6th, a new person to come into office. Oh, but if somebody else comes into office like Kamala Harris, I bet you all of a sudden that 90-day sleeper period, I bet you if Kamala Harris, Tanstradamus prediction, write it down. Let's mark this. 1 hour and 13 minutes. Here we go. Tanstradamus prediction and go. The dock strike union comes to terms and agreement. If Kamala wins the election this November, she wins. The dock strike will make it back into the news, and they will have come up with terms, and they will have agreed to something. It won't be nearly what they wanted it to be. That's 70%. It's not going to happen. And they're going to completely come to terms with all of it. And this will all be squashed come January. We won't have a dock strike. If Donald Trump gets elected on this November, next week, 5 days from now, what happens is the dock strike will make it back into the news. And those terms will not even take 65% for those terms. They're going to hold those terms in place because they want they want a shutdown of the docks. They want the 83,000, and they want to make Trump look extremely bad starting off January 6th, which is exactly why this strike would probably kind of take Veen. I don't know what the exact 90-day number is, but they're probably not going to do it on New Year's Day. So I would guess maybe the 3rd, 4th, 5th, maybe by the 6th. Again, I think it is all by design that this works out that way. Tansey prediction. That's it. On top of the powder keg of World War III, which is ramping up, which is ramping up for a civil war. Listen, people are hurting in their pockets. People don't have money. People's savings are at an all-time low right now. It's a big deal. If you're running out of savings, that means you're spending more money than you're making. And those savings, once they're gone and you're continuing spending more than you're making and you've eaten into your savings, now you're into debt. So how far before all of these people that are eating away into their savings are now starting to rack up debt? With debt comes other stressors and stresses. Coupled with AI taking over jobs. People not able to find work. People that don't really want to work. I'm just saying it doesn't look that great. It doesn't look like there's anybody trying to prevent a civil war at this point. And if the industrial military war complex, if the rich elite, if whoever it is that you think is in charge, isn't fighting to stop a civil war, then they're fighting for a civil war. And if the media is ran by those same folks who are ramping up rhetoric, who are calling, doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on this Nazism, fascism, we hate women. People from the right don't hate women. The children that they are trying to save happen to be women. And I think there's a very fair and empathetic argument to abortion on both sides. And if you're looking at it through hatred or through a lens of hatred, that's only because you have been brainwashed and manipulated by mainstream media. Having a child is hard. That is a huge decision. People accidentally fuck up and get pregnant. That happens. And that is super stressful. And it is super hard. And believe it or not, there are people who are molested. Lots and lots of people who are molested and sex trafficked. And if you don't have empathy for those people and you can't get on their level and you can't think of anything else to say to them, but you're a murderer, well, then you're a part of the global problem. And at the same token, if you say that somebody that wants to protect a potentially newborn woman or newborn man, newborn child, boy or girl, and somebody wants to protect them, that they are anti-woman or they are a bigot, then you are a part of the global problem. I believe that there should always be a fight on both sides for that agenda. There has to be somebody that cares about the girl who was molested. There has to be somebody who cares about the girl who's incestually raped. There has to, and it's $1 billion, multi-billion-dollar business of child trafficking and child sex trafficking. That is a hard conversation to have. And if you're absent of faith, if you're absent of belief, which you're allowed to be in this country, that question becomes even trickier. Because you don't have a religious ground to stand on, or you're not standing on a religious ground. And you can't fault somebody for that because that's what this country was founded on, was the right to be able to even do that. So it is a debate that has to be had. I don't know if calling people sluts and murderers is the right way to go about it, but that's the way we all feel and think, because that's what the mainstream media propaganda is. They want to turn us on everybody. And so that's why I say they're trying to bring you to a civil war. And if they're trying to do that and nobody's trying to stop it, then where do we go from there? Do you still think that there's a 0% chance? Let me go to the chats before I get out of here. Murph 530, I think we need to remember how weak Republicans are when it comes to political movements. Law-abiding and writing angry letters. It would have to be Trump winning and the left starts riots all over. I don't think so. I think a battle at the ballot box between Cop and a right winger could start a war. Whose side do you take in that scenario? It doesn't have to be just about the votes. I don't know. As far as the 0% chance goes, maybe the chances are low. I don't think it's 0% chance though. James Russell says, I fear for my grandchildren. The only hope that I do have is what I saw in Western North Carolina, which I saw as man helping man. And I think that's something that we don't account for, is that when somebody does that there will be somebody, there will be a podcaster, maybe it's a Joe Rogan, that steps up and calms everybody the fuck down. There's always that human aspect that defies mathematical or scientific data. You can't, it's always going to be that soldier on the ground that's going to dictate the way a war goes versus the technology, things like that. There's always those outliers. And I don't think we count on those enough. And hopefully there is we need a hero. You know what I mean? Cupcakes and Cameos says, same James, I fear for my grandkids. My boys are only 7 and 2. But I will say that there is a lot of homesteading going on. There is this massive amount. It's like homeschooling's up like 300% nationwide right now. People are starting to be wise of public indoctrinated schools. They're starting to become wise through this mass influx of information. They're becoming wise of the propaganda that's being fed, and they are taking matters into their own hands. People are starting to vote differently. More and more people are starting to talk about drinking unpasteurized milk for all of its health and all these things. It's only going to take a matter of time before the government poisons some milk and gets everybody scared to drink it again. Same with honey and all the other things. But, maybe the way that we are raising our kids in our generation is making them wiser, and that they are the ones that save us from all this. Maybe they're the ones that are like, God, how fucking crazy were our millennial parents fighting over dumb shit like abortion, like going to war over abortion, going to war over supporting Ukraine and all these other countries. And like, wow, like we have all these homeless people here. And what were our millennial parents thinking? Maybe that's how our children save the day. I don't have the answer. But we'll see. I hope that we're all here together. Guys, Office Joe, don't forget about it. Pig Latin. By the way, if you didn't know, I'm in the Office Joe show. I'm in a couple of different episodes. Here is my character. I'm actually Officer Tansey, and I get to be in this with It's All Good 24/7. He's an EMT influencer on TikTok, hundreds of thousands of followers and viewers. That's really fun. Also, the book, Pig Latin, a seriously funny true story of a former police officer, Eric Tansey, with Nick Palmisano as my co-author, New York Times bestselling author Nick Palmisano, and author of Scars and Stripes with Tim Kennedy. That is now available for pre-sale on Barnes & Nobles. Not doing a huge push yet because it doesn't come out until August. But the numbers now do count for the New York Times bestseller. So I encourage you guys all to, it could make a good Christmas gift. I know that's weird, but like that's actually a gift that kind of gives all the way through until August. So it's like you could print out now, right? You could go and pre-order the book for your loved one or for your favorite first responder or your favorite person that loves comedy. You print out the book and now take a picture of that. And I'll do something special as well. Like maybe I'll do like a cameo for you. Like if you order the book, you snapshot that. And you say it's a Christmas gift for so-and-so, I will do a video. I will make a personal video for that person, letting them know that you got them this book and that it comes out in August and that you, in fact, are one of the first people to be on because we're having the marketing campaign doesn't even start till February. So the only person pushing this book right now is me. Simon Schuster, my publishing house, isn't going to push it. My agent isn't going to push it. My co-author isn't going to push it. I'm only pushing it to my friends and family right now because it doesn't come out till August. And you can't really get a lot of hype now. It'll burn out. That makes sense. So you will be on the first, couple of hundred before the, massive amount of people. Listen, this book is going into every Hudson's, every Target, and every Costco in August. It's one of the bigger book deals for a first-time author by a major publishing house. And all that, most of that credit goes to Nick Palmisano for making that happen for me, who also happened to write Scars and Stripes and Office Joe and Range 15, if you're a drinking bro and you were a fan of the Range 15 movie. So huge first-time book deal. That's why it's been so secretive, Squirrel. If you want to go and be a part of that movement of the Pig Latin book, you can order it now. Send me a picture. Do it earlier so that I have time to make all these videos And then I will have those videos for you coming out. Cupcakes Cameo says, we homeschool. We had a teacher that tried to touch our 7-year-old inappropriately, and we pulled him out. Cupcakes and Cameo, I was punished in kindergarten. I'll never forget it to this day. And I lost all my popsicle sticks in a 5-day period. And I was placed into a closet, a janitorial supply closet, from the minute I got to school until I left school at 3 p.m. That teacher, about 10 years later, was arrested for doing it to somebody else. And my parents got mad at me because they said that I was lying at the time in kindergarten. And it was one of the first times I was accused of being a liar. And I wasn't lying because my parents were extremely strict, and lying was, just like what I am with my kids, zero tolerance in lying. So this happened. She was actually arrested for it. And I'll never forget it. That's one of the bigger reasons why I homeschool. Also in second grade, this is a funny story before we go. I just love being here with you guys. In second grade, I was forced to have a partition around my desk. Big, giant white, this is in the early 90s, big white partition, like a cubicle on my desk. Can you picture that for a moment? Second grade. You're in a classroom full of kids, and then one kid in the class has a massive white cardboard box built around his desk by the teachers, principals, or whoever. And that's where I had to do all of my studies within these 4 walls. This is at the very, very beginning. By the time I got to 7th grade, ADHD was a full-blown thing, and they were putting every single fucking kid on Ritalin. It was the COVID of whatever, 1998. But at the very beginning of that, when I was in 2nd grade, ADHD wasn't a thing. They didn't have a term for it yet. They just knew that that there were certain kids that wouldn't fall in line. There were certain kids that wouldn't not daydream. There were too many. There were kids that were free thinkers, and the public school system needed to do away with those free thinkers. I was not a bad child. I didn't misbehave, but I was accused of not paying attention. And so they built this cubicle in front of me. Now, a lot of things have happened in the last couple of weeks, comedy shows and premieres, and I've got to be on the red carpet. And then all of a sudden, a school teacher who I haven't talked to since 2nd grade says, hey, I see that you're friends with so-and-so. I think I was your 2nd grade teacher. Do you remember me? My name would have been Miss such and such. I'm now married and my name is such and such. And I wrote back. I said, oh yeah, I remember you. How can I forget? I spent that whole school year sitting behind a cardboard box, and nobody liked me because of it. I had no friends on the playground. I had no friends at lunch. I had 0 friends in 2nd grade. And in 3rd grade, I tried to overcompensate and try to gain more friends in 3rd grade, which made me an even bigger douchebag. And it wasn't until 6th grade, when somebody realized that I was a really good surfer, that all of a sudden people thought that my surfing abilities out-trumped my social weirdness. And all of a sudden I became the cool kid, the cool surfer. And then, I had all the long hair, and then, I became kind of like a mascot, like a Spicoli style mascot all through high school, and was a very popular kid ever since. But my 2nd grade teacher, absolutely, that was one of the worst years of my entire life. And so I wrote that to her. And now I have one of the bigger book deals of all time. Not of all time, but I have one of the bigger book deals for first-time author early in the game from a major publishing house, which I think is really cool. Again, more credit to Nick Palmisano than to myself. I wrote a book. It was really funny. Nick Palmisano made it a great book and a hilarious book. Let me go through a couple of chats just because you guys are super lively in the chats, and I don't want to waste your time, but I feel like if you took the time to write some of these long paragraphs in the chats, I should to entertain you. Cupcake Cameron says, I knew our son wasn't lying. The incident happened on a Friday, and he told us Sunday evening, and he told us he had been upset about it all weekend. We could tell something was off all weekend. Yeah. I mean, I would always believe my kids until the evidence showed otherwise. James Russell, Fuzzy Uncle Bob, who might have been your child's teacher. I'm just kidding. Fuzzy Uncle Bob's just a funny name. My daughter was moved into the hallway. Oh, now I'm going to feel like an asshole. My daughter was moved into the hallway during math class in the 3rd grade. The teacher said that she didn't have the time to teach her individually. Now, if you're getting moved in the hallway because you are passing notes and doing all these things, like, look, you gotta you got to take that one on the chin, right? You got to say, honey, listen, you can't be passing notes. You can't be disrupting the class. I would expect the teachers to send you out there. But now if it's, I can't teach you and you have too many questions, yada, 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 and I'm going to put you out in the hallway. Right. Yeah. We have issues there. I also, I hate math so much that I fucked off in math class way too much. Way too much. I mean, I was the ultimate disruptor in math class. I was the guy that needed that. I was retarding the entire class. I was the asshole, but I just hated math so much that I couldn't sit still, and like idle hands are the devil, right? And I would find anything and everything, throwing my pencils, sharpening pencils and launching them up into the ceiling, or, spitwadding at a friend, or trying to do the thing across the, back then we didn't have PowerPoint. We had like the projector screen. You could, do like the middle finger. I anything and everything I could to retard the class. I did that. And I still to this day hate math. And I would still argue, where do I ever use it? Where have I ever had to use any of that bullshit? I knew I wasn't going to have a career in math. The only time I had to use math was when I was, when I was the master distiller and head distiller. And I was so passionate about distillation and winemaking and making rum and all the other things that I have no problem learning when I want to do it. It's not a matter of can she learn or can't she learn. She probably doesn't want to, because it's stupid and it doesn't make sense. It's stupid to her. So some people are passionate about it. My son loves math. God, he loves it. And because he loves it so much, I'm forced to try to encourage his learning of math. And it's really fun to have him teach me math. And I actually do enjoy it. I have no ego in that game. I want my kids to be exorbitantly better than me. So I have them teach me math, and he enjoys it, and he likes teaching me math, and that teaches leadership and everything else too. But for me, math was stupid. And if any of my other kids feel that math is stupid, I'm not going to force them to learn it, because there's 1,000 other things that you can be great at. Why try to be good at something that you don't enjoy and you're not going to use? And using math isn't a life or death situation. Properly tying a knot is a life or death situation. That's why all my kids are required to know 8 basic knots. They have to. They don't have a choice. And they'll have to show me those knots constantly, all the time. I will just tell them, like, yo, in the line, bow line, go. And they have to, they're, clove hitch, go. Wrap and frap, those pencils together, go. Because that's life or death. There could be situations in life that if they don't tie the right knot, they could die, or they might not be able to save somebody else's life. So, I mean, there's certain things that, but math, it's not going to save my life. Now, Greg LaMontagne says he does math all the time and he likes it, but he hates English class, it looks like. Fair enough. When is maybe having to read could save your life, right? Like, don't stick your head in the fan. Don't stick your finger in the fan blade. Well, I couldn't read. No, but I get what you're saying. Guys, I appreciate you sticking with me. We went way over. Please go to FAWKES, the YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button there. That is where all the new stuff is going if you want to be up in the know. Craig, I want to get with you guys. I want to do some joint stuff. I know that you're starting to do podcast almost daily. So go ahead and plug that. Greg LaMontagne, go ahead and plug your podcast real quick. Let's just wait 1 second for Greg. Greg, this new one that you have, not the bar is open with, but I think you have like a new daily show, almost daily, semi-daily show that you got coming out. Plug it for me really quick, Greg, since I'm suffering with this bullshit. Somebody says they have to know how to read my book unless there's pictures in it. Yeah, there's supposed to be pictures in it, but I'm not going to talk shit. We had really good pictures. Some power at B decided they didn't want to put them in the book, and it wasn't me, and it wasn't Nick. Just Greg on the Bar is Open channel. So yeah, so Just Greg. I also want to get up with Just Greg about that stuff too, because it's doing daily podcasts is super fun, and that's what radio, that's how podcasts overtakes radio. So I'm real passionate about that, and I appreciate what you're doing, Greg. And I'm going to be tuning into Just Greg on the Bar is Open channel. Guys, listen, for myself and everybody here at the Fox Media Company, Two Cops, One Donut Shop podcast, Anti-Hero podcast, Beyond the Barrel podcast. We got what's the newest one that we've got on that's crushing on YouTube right now? You have to go follow them too. Unbecoming podcast. dude, they're crushing. Just started. We're just getting with these guys. They're hilarious. We met them down in Orlando. They're crushing it. They've started up their YouTube channel. I think like they're only a week old and they're already up to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, which YouTube is so hard to get subscribers on, especially if you're, kind of controversial like that. But they're kind of like this. They're kind of like the failure to stop, but on the firefighter side of things. Also, we have one more, and I'm out of here podcast and all those guys that do our sports news right here on FAWKES. So check it out, FAWKES News on the YouTube channel, and then Fox FAWKES on the podcast channel. We'll get that link up soon. It should be already out there. Follow us, hit that like and subscribe, and give us a 5-star rating and review on Spotify, iTunes, so that we can really ramp this thing up going into the new year. I'm actually going to rebuild out this set, make it a little bit better, a little bit nicer, and invest more into YouTube because YouTube didn't take us down this election season. So I'm going to give YouTube an award and make a better effort into our YouTube. So everybody from myself and everybody here at Fox Media, thank you guys for being here and hanging out for the duration of today's show. Guns up and giddy up.